Every single thought you hold in your mind, right at this very moment, is shaping your entire existence, molding your future, creating the world you will inhabit tomorrow, next week, next year, and for all the years that follow. The power coursing through your consciousness is not some mystical force reserved for the chosen few, not some distant dream available only to those born under lucky stars, but a tangible, measurable, absolute power that belongs to you, lives within you, waits for your command, this very second. Christian D. Larson understood this truth with crystal clarity when he penned The Thinking Force, a masterwork that transforms how we perceive our mental capabilities and reveals the astonishing capacity each person possesses to architect their own destiny through the disciplined application of thought. Your mind is not merely a passive receiver of information, not simply a storage vault for memories and experiences, but an active, dynamic, creative powerhouse that generates the very substance of your life experience. When you think a thought, you are not engaging in some inconsequential mental exercise. You are setting into motion forces that ripple outward into the universe, attracting circumstances, drawing opportunities, creating pathways that align perfectly with the nature of that thought. This is not metaphorical language, not poetic exaggeration, but literal truth that operates with the precision of mathematical law, the consistency of gravity, the reliability of sunrise. The thinking force within you operates continuously, ceaselessly, whether you direct it consciously or allow it to run wild without supervision. And the results you experience in your external world serve as perfect mirrors, reflecting the quality and nature of your internal thought patterns. Understanding this principle transforms everything. When you grasp that your thoughts are not random electrical impulses firing meaninglessly in your brain, but deliberate acts of creation that shape your reality, you suddenly realize you hold the master key to transformation. No longer are you a victim of circumstances. No longer are you subject to the whims of fate. No longer must you accept whatever life hands you with resignation and defeat. Instead, you become the conscious creator, the deliberate architect, the master builder of your own experience. This shift in perspective, this awakening to your true power, represents the difference between a life of struggle and a life of triumph, between years of frustration and years of fulfillment, between mediocrity and magnificence. Larson explains that most people go through life completely unaware of the power they wield. They think thousands of thoughts each day, most of them habitual repetitions of yesterday's mental patterns, most of them unconscious reactions to external stimuli, most of them colored by fear, doubt, limitation, and negativity inherited from family, absorbed from culture, adopted from peers who themselves walk in darkness. These unconscious thinkers wonder why their lives feel stuck, why opportunities seem to elude them, why success appears to favor others while passing them by. They attribute their circumstances to bad luck, to unfair systems, to advantages they were not born with, never realizing that the true source of their difficulties lies in the undisciplined, misdirected application of their own thinking force. The transformation begins when you make a fundamental decision, a choice that will alter the entire trajectory of your existence. You must decide to take conscious control of your thinking force, to become the deliberate director of your mental energies, to refuse to allow your mind to wander aimlessly through landscapes of worry, fear, and limitation. This decision requires commitment because your old mental habits possess tremendous momentum. They have been practiced for years, perhaps decades. They have carved deep grooves in your consciousness, and they will not surrender their dominance without resistance. But when you persist, when you daily, hourly, moment by moment bring your attention back to constructive, positive, empowering thoughts, you begin to experience changes that seem miraculous to those who do not understand the law you are applying. The thinking force operates through attraction. Like attracts like in the mental realm just as surely as magnets attract metal in the physical world. When you hold thoughts of abundance, prosperity, success, and achievement, you create a magnetic field that draws corresponding circumstances into your life. When you dwell on thoughts of lack, limitation, failure, and defeat, you create an equally powerful magnetic field that attracts experiences matching those mental patterns. This is not wishful thinking, not positive psychology platitudes, but observable law that anyone can verify through their own experience. Look back across your life, and you will see with startling clarity that the dominant thought patterns you held preceded and predicted the circumstances you encountered. Consider someone who constantly thinks about financial struggle, who dwells on bills they cannot pay, who worries obsessively about money, who speaks continually about how difficult it is to make ends meet. This person has set their thinking force into motion in a very specific direction, and the universe, responding with perfect precision to the signal being broadcast, delivers experiences that match the frequency. Unexpected expenses arise, opportunities fall through, income sources dry up, and the person finds themselves trapped in the exact circumstances their thoughts have been creating. They do not recognize their own role in this creation. They believe themselves victims of economic forces beyond their control, but in truth, they are experiencing the absolutely predictable results of their mental focus. Now consider someone who makes a different choice, someone who decides to direct their thinking force toward abundance regardless of current circumstances. This person deliberately fills their mind with thoughts of prosperity. They visualize money flowing to them from multiple sources. They speak words of abundance. They feel grateful for the resources they have and the resources coming to them. They refuse to entertain thoughts of lack even when bills arrive and bank accounts run low. This person has set a different signal into motion, has tuned their mental radio to a different frequency, and the universe responds accordingly. Unexpected income appears. Opportunities emerge from unlikely sources. People offer help and resources. Solutions present themselves, and gradually, sometimes suddenly, the person's external circumstances shift to match the new mental pattern they have established. The difference between these two people has nothing to do with education, background, connections, or advantages. The difference lies entirely in the direction they have pointed their thinking force. One aims toward lack and receives it. The other aims toward abundance and receives it, both operating under the same universal law, both experiencing perfect manifestation of their dominant thoughts. This example applies equally to health, relationships, career success, creative achievement, and every other area of human experience. The thinking force does not discriminate, does not judge, does not decide whether your thoughts are worthy or unworthy of manifestation. It simply responds, creates, delivers, with the reliability of a well-programmed computer executing the code you have written. But understanding the principle is only the beginning. The real work, the transformative practice, lies in the consistent, disciplined application of this knowledge. Larson emphasizes that you cannot merely think positive thoughts occasionally, cannot offer a few affirmations while your deeper mental currents continue flowing in negative directions, and expect to see significant change. The thinking force responds to your dominant mental atmosphere, the prevailing climate of your consciousness, the thoughts you return to again and again throughout your days and weeks. Transformation requires that you establish new mental habits, create new default patterns, develop a new automatic way of thinking that supports rather than sabotages your dreams and desires. This requires vigilance, especially in the beginning. Your mind has been trained, probably for many years, to notice problems, anticipate difficulties, remember failures, and project fears into the future. These patterns feel natural because they are familiar. They require no effort because they have become automatic, but they are absolutely toxic to your success and happiness. You must become a guardian at the gate of your consciousness, watching what thoughts you allow entry, examining the mental visitors that knock on your door, refusing hospitality to those that bring messages of limitation, defeat, and impossibility. When a negative thought arises, and they will arise constantly at first, you do not fight it, do not wrestle with it, do not give it energy through resistance. Instead, you simply notice it, acknowledge it without judgment, and then deliberately replace it with its positive opposite. This practice might sound simple, and in concept it is simple, but in application it demands tremendous commitment. Imagine someone who has habitually thought for years about how difficult relationships are, how people cannot be trusted, how they always end up hurt and disappointed. These thoughts have created a powerful current flowing in a specific direction, and that current has attracted experiences confirming the belief. Changing this pattern means catching those thoughts dozens of times each day, perhaps hundreds of times at first, and deliberately choosing different thoughts. It means affirming that loving, trustworthy people exist, that healthy relationships are possible, that they are worthy of genuine connection, that their past does not determine their future. It means persistently holding these new thoughts even when circumstances seem to contradict them, even when old patterns try to reassert themselves, even when the ego insists the new thoughts are foolish lies. But something remarkable happens when you persist. The new thoughts, repeated consistently, begin to create their own momentum. The neural pathways associated with these thoughts become stronger, wider, more easily traveled. The old pathways, deprived of the attention that maintained them, begin to weaken and fade. Your emotional state shifts because emotions follow thoughts as surely as thunder follows lightning. Where you once felt anxious and fearful, you begin to feel hopeful and confident. Where you once felt defeated, you begin to feel empowered. And as your emotional state shifts, your actions shift, because we act in accordance with how we feel. Different actions produce different results, and different results provide evidence that reinforces the new thought patterns, creating a positive spiral that accelerates your transformation. The thinking force works equally powerfully in creating health or illness, vitality or weakness, energy or fatigue. Larson explains that your body responds continuously to the messages your mind sends. When you think thoughts of health, strength, and vitality, when you visualize yourself as energetic and well, when you affirm your body's innate capacity to heal and thrive, you activate systems within your physiology that support these outcomes. Your immune function improves, your cellular repair mechanisms work more efficiently, your energy levels increase, your body moves toward the state your mind is projecting. Conversely, when you constantly worry about your health, when you focus on symptoms and problems, when you identify yourself as sick or weak, when you speak continuously about your ailments and limitations, you direct your thinking force toward creating and maintaining those conditions. Your body, ever responsive to mental direction, complies with the instructions it receives. Stress hormones flood your system, immune function becomes suppressed, healing processes slow, and you find yourself experiencing the very health challenges you have been thinking about so intensely. This is not to say that all illness stems from negative thinking or that positive thoughts alone can cure serious medical conditions. But it is to say that your mental state profoundly influences your physical state, that your thoughts about your health matter tremendously, and that you can support your healing and well-being by directing your thinking force toward health rather than disease. Many people have experienced remarkable recoveries by changing their mental focus, by refusing to identify with their diagnosis, by visualizing themselves healthy and whole, by persistently holding thoughts of wellness even while receiving medical treatment for serious conditions. Around the 10-minute mark in this exploration of these profound truths, pause for just a moment to recognize how valuable this information truly is. If you are finding these insights helpful, if you can see how understanding and applying the principles of the thinking force could transform your life, please like and subscribe to Audiobook Library. Your support helps this channel grow and makes it possible to share these life-changing ideas with more people who desperately need to hear them. Every subscription, every like, every share extends the reach of this wisdom and potentially changes someone's life. Now, let us continue diving deeper into how you can harness this incredible power within you. The thinking force also governs your relationships and your capacity to attract the right people into your life. If you constantly think about how lonely you are, how difficult it is to find good friends, how people always disappoint you, how you cannot trust anyone, you create a vibration that either repels potential friends or attracts people who will confirm your expectations. Your suspicion and distrust communicate themselves through subtle energy, through body language, through tone of voice, through the questions you ask and the statements you make, and people respond to these signals by keeping their distance or by behaving in ways that validate your negative beliefs. But when you direct your thinking force toward attracting wonderful relationships, when you affirm that you are surrounded by loving, supportive, trustworthy people, when you visualize yourself enjoying deep connections and meaningful friendships, when you focus on the qualities you want to experience in others rather than the betrayals you fear, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice people you might have previously overlooked. You become more open and receptive. You communicate warmth and trust that invites others to respond in kind, and gradually your social world transforms to reflect your new mental patterns. One powerful story illustrates this principle perfectly. There was a woman who had been hurt in multiple relationships, romantic partnerships that ended in betrayal, friendships that dissolved in disappointment, family connections strained by conflict. She had built a fortress around her heart, and her dominant thought was that people could not be trusted, that she was safer alone, that opening herself to connection only invited pain. Her thinking force, obediently responding to these instructions, created a life experience that matched them perfectly. She found herself increasingly isolated, and on the rare occasions when someone showed interest in friendship or romance, something would go wrong. Some conflict would arise, some incompatibility would surface, confirming her belief that relationships were doomed to fail. Then she encountered these teachings about the thinking force and made a courageous decision. She would change her mental patterns regardless of her history, regardless of her fears, regardless of the evidence that seemed to support her negative beliefs. She began affirming daily that loving, trustworthy people were entering her life. She visualized herself surrounded by genuine friends who valued and appreciated her. She practiced feeling the emotions she would experience in healthy relationships. She deliberately looked for evidence of kindness and trustworthiness in the people around her, rather than scanning for signs of potential betrayal. The change was not instantaneous, but it was undeniable. Within weeks, she noticed shifts. A neighbor she had barely acknowledged for years initiated a conversation that blossomed into genuine friendship. A colleague at work invited her to lunch, and what began as a casual meal evolved into regular connection. A community group she joined introduced her to people who shared her interests and values. Within months, her social world had transformed so completely that she barely recognized it. She had not moved to a new city, had not changed jobs, had not done anything external to force these changes. The only thing that had changed was her thinking, but that change in her invisible mental world had produced obvious, tangible changes in her visible external world. This same principle applies to career success and professional achievement. Your thoughts about your capabilities, your value, your potential for advancement, your deservingness of recognition and reward, all these mental patterns direct your thinking force either towards success or away from it. Someone who constantly thinks they are not good enough, who believes others are more talented, who fears failure, who doubts their abilities, who expects to be overlooked and undervalued, creates a powerful force field that manifests these expectations. They unconsciously sabotage opportunities. They fail to speak up when they should. They present themselves with less confidence than their skills warrant. They accept less than they deserve, and they wonder why advancement seems to come easily to others, but not to them. Meanwhile, someone with identical skills and experience but different mental patterns experiences a completely different career trajectory. This person thinks thoughts of capability and competence. They recognize their value. They expect good things to happen. They visualize themselves succeeding and advancing. They speak with confidence about their abilities and contributions. They take actions aligned with success because their thinking force has created an internal atmosphere where such actions feel natural and appropriate. Opportunities appear, recognition comes, advancement happens, not because they are lucky or connected or more talented, but because they have directed their thinking force toward these outcomes and the universe has responded according to law. Larson emphasizes that the thinking force does not require you to understand how your desires will manifest, does not need you to figure out the pathway from current reality to desired outcome, does not ask you to force or manipulate circumstances to achieve your goals. Your job is simply to hold the thought, maintain the vision, sustain the feeling, trust the process. The universe handles the how, arranges the circumstances, coordinates the people, orchestrates the events that bring your mental creation into physical form. This requires letting go of the need to control, releasing the compulsion to figure everything out, surrendering the belief that you must make things happen through sheer effort and force of will. This does not mean you sit idle and wait for miracles. The thinking force expresses itself through you, guides your actions, prompts your decisions, inspires your initiatives. But there is a vast difference between action flowing naturally from aligned thought and action forced from a place of fear, doubt, and struggle. When your thinking force is properly directed, opportunities present themselves, ideas arise, connections happen, and you find yourself moved to take actions that feel inspired rather than desperate, joyful rather than burdensome, energizing rather than draining. You work, often quite hard, but the work feels different because it flows from a different source, serves a different purpose, carries a different energy. Consider someone building a business. If their dominant thoughts are fear of failure, worry about money, doubt about their product or service, anxiety about competition, they will take actions colored by these mental states. They will market from a place of desperation, make decisions based on fear, communicate their insecurity to potential customers, work exhausting hours trying to force success through sheer effort. Their business might survive, but it will feel like a constant struggle, a perpetual uphill battle against unseen forces that seem determined to keep them stuck. Now consider someone building a business from a different mental foundation. This person holds thoughts of success, expects customers to appear, trusts in the value they provide, feels confident about their offerings, maintains calm certainty that everything is working out perfectly. They take actions guided by inspiration, make decisions based on inner knowing, communicate their confidence to customers, work diligently but not desperately, trust that the right people will find them at the right time. Their business experiences a completely different quality of growth, attracts different types of customers, encounters different types of opportunities. Not because the market is different, but because their thinking force is creating a different experience. The thinking force also determines your experience of time and your perception of aging. Most people accept cultural programming about aging that teaches them to expect decline, deterioration, loss of vitality, increasing limitation with each passing year. These thoughts, held consistently over decades, direct the thinking force toward creating exactly these experiences. The body, ever responsive to mental direction, complies. People in their 40s start saying they are getting old. People in their 50s expect aches and pains. People in their 60s and beyond resign themselves to declining capacity. And all of them wonder why they cannot maintain the energy and vitality of their youth. But others reject these limiting beliefs entirely. They hold thoughts of timeless vitality. They affirm that they grow stronger and more capable with each passing year. They visualize themselves healthy and active regardless of chronological age. They speak words of youth and energy. They refuse to participate in conversations about inevitable decline. These people, directing their thinking force very differently than their peers, experience very different results. They maintain strength and flexibility decades longer. They engage in activities others their age consider impossible. They radiate energy that seems to defy their birth certificate, and they serve as living proof that aging is far more subject to mental direction than most people realize. Your financial abundance or lack flows directly from your thinking force. Money is energy, responds to mental direction, flows toward those who welcome it and away from those who resent or fear it. Many people have deeply conflicted relationships with money, simultaneously wanting more while believing that desire is somehow wrong, or that wealthy people are morally suspect, or that they themselves do not deserve abundance. These contradictory thoughts create tremendous static in their thinking force, sending mixed signals to the universe, attracting just enough money to survive but never enough to thrive. Larson teaches that you must develop clarity and conviction in your thoughts about money. You must decide that abundance is your natural state, that money is a positive force that allows you to serve and contribute more fully, that you deserve prosperity just as surely as you deserve to breathe, that wealth can flow to you easily and naturally when you align your thinking force with these truths. This often requires clearing away layers of limiting beliefs inherited from parents, absorbed from religious teaching, adopted from a culture that often treats money and spirituality as incompatible. The process of transforming your financial reality through your thinking force follows the same pattern as transformation in any other area. You begin by becoming aware of your current thoughts about money, noticing the habitual patterns that run like background programs in your consciousness. You might discover you think hundreds of negative thoughts about money each day, thoughts you never consciously chose but absorbed from your environment. Once you see these thoughts clearly, you can begin replacing them, one by one, with thoughts that support, rather than sabotage, your prosperity. You affirm that money flows to you easily from multiple sources. You visualize yourself receiving unexpected income. You feel the emotions you would experience with greater abundance. You speak words of prosperity and appreciation. You act as someone wealthy would act in terms of your generosity and confidence. You look for evidence of abundance already in your life and focus on that evidence with gratitude. Day by day, week by week, your mental atmosphere shifts, your thinking force reorients toward prosperity, and your external circumstances begin to change in ways that seem miraculous to those who do not understand the law you are applying. One crucial aspect of working with the thinking force involves the quality of your attention. Whatever you give your attention to grows stronger in your experience. If you focus continually on problems, problems multiply. If you focus on lack, lack expands. If you focus on what is wrong in your life, more wrong appears. This is not because the universe is punishing you, but because your attention is a powerful creative force that amplifies whatever it touches. When you understand this, you realize that where you place your attention is one of the most important decisions you make each day. Most people place their attention habitually on whatever seems most urgent, most pressing, most demanding, most problematic in their immediate environment. They wake up and immediately start thinking about everything they need to do, everything that could go wrong, everything they are worried about. They consume news filled with disaster and conflict. They engage in conversations focused on complaints and grievances. They replay past hurts and project future fears. All day long, they feed their thinking force a steady diet of negativity, limitation, and fear, then wonder why their lives feel so heavy and difficult. But you can make a different choice. You can decide to place your attention deliberately on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid, on what is working rather than what is broken, on possibilities rather than problems, on gratitude rather than grievance. This is not denial of reality, not pretending difficulties do not exist, but rather a strategic deployment of your most valuable resource, your attention, in the direction of your desired outcomes rather than your feared outcomes. When you do this consistently, your thinking force flows powerfully toward creating experiences you actually want rather than experiences you dread. Gratitude deserves special attention because it is perhaps the most powerful thought you can think. The most effective way to direct your thinking force toward positive creation. When you feel genuine gratitude for what you already have, you send a signal to the universe that says more good things are welcome. You create a vibration that attracts additional blessings. You open yourself to receive abundance in all its forms. Grateful people consistently report more positive life experiences than ungrateful people. Not because grateful people have objectively better circumstances, but because their thinking force is creating different experiences from the same raw material of life. Someone might look at their modest home and think thoughts of dissatisfaction, comparing it unfavorably to larger houses, focusing on everything that needs repair, wishing they could afford something better. Someone else might look at a similar home and feel profound gratitude for shelter and safety, appreciate the memories created there, focus on what they love about the space, and speak words of blessing over their dwelling. These two people, living in nearly identical circumstances, have completely different experiences because their thinking force is flowing in opposite directions, one toward lack and dissatisfaction, the other toward abundance and appreciation. The power of your thinking force extends even to your creative and intellectual capacities. When you think thoughts of mental limitation, when you believe you are not smart enough or creative enough or talented enough, when you compare yourself unfavorably to others, when you doubt your ideas and insights, you direct your thinking force toward validating these limitations. Your mind, receiving these instructions, operates within the boundaries you have set. Ideas do not flow as freely, solutions do not appear as readily. Your creative expression feels constrained and difficult. But when you affirm your mental capacity, when you expect creative ideas to flow through you, when you trust your insights and intuition, when you claim your right to original thought and expression, you direct your thinking force toward expanding your intellectual and creative capabilities. Your mind, freed from the artificial limitations you had imposed, begins to operate more fully, more powerfully, more creatively. Ideas come more frequently and easily. Solutions appear where before you saw only problems. your creative work flows with less resistance and more joy. Larson emphasizes that the thinking force responds to belief more than to wishing. You can wish for something while fundamentally believing it will not happen, and in such cases your belief will win. Your thinking force will align with what you truly believe rather than what you superficially wish. This is why affirmations sometimes seem ineffective for people. They speak positive words while their deeper belief structure remains negative, and the deeper belief controls the thinking force. Effective transformation requires that you shift your actual beliefs, not just change your words, and this often takes time, repetition, and patience. Changing deep beliefs is like training a muscle. It requires consistent practice over weeks and months. You cannot speak an affirmation 3 times and expect to override a belief you have held for 30 years. But when you persist, when you repeat your new thoughts daily, when you look for evidence supporting your new belief, when you act as if the new belief is true even before you fully feel it is true, gradually, inevitably, the new belief takes root, grows stronger, and eventually replaces the old limiting belief that had been running your life. Your thinking force works most powerfully when combined with clear mental imagery. Abstract thoughts have some power, but thoughts combined with vivid mental pictures have exponentially greater power. When you can see in your mind's eye the outcome you desire, when you can make the image detailed and sensory-rich, when you can feel the emotions you would experience when that image becomes reality, you amplify your thinking force tremendously. This is why visualization is such a powerful tool. It engages your thinking force more completely than words alone ever could. Athletes have proven this principle countless times. Research shows that mental rehearsal, vividly imagining perfect performance, produces measurable improvements in actual physical performance. The brain and nervous system respond to detailed visualization almost as powerfully as to actual physical practice. When you visualize yourself succeeding, your thinking force begins creating neural pathways, physiological responses, and energetic patterns that support that success. When the actual moment comes to perform, you are not starting from zero, but building on the foundation your thinking force has already constructed through repeated mental practice. This same principle applies to any goal or desired outcome. Want a better job? Do not just think about wanting a better job. Create a detailed mental movie of yourself in that job. See the environment, feel the satisfaction, hear the conversations, experience the emotions. Want improved health? Do not just wish to feel better. Visualize yourself moving with ease and energy. See yourself engaging in activities you currently cannot do. Feel the vitality flowing through your body. Want better relationships? Create vivid mental scenes of yourself connecting deeply with others, feeling understood and appreciated, sharing laughter and intimacy. The more frequently you play these mental movies, the more real they become to your subconscious mind, which cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experience and actual experience. Your thinking force, taking direction from these vivid images, begins arranging circumstances, attracting opportunities, guiding your actions, coordinating events to manifest the mental pictures you have been holding. This is not magic, though it may seem magical when you experience it. It is simply law, as reliable and predictable as any physical law, operating according to principles that anyone can learn and apply. Larson also addresses the importance of present tense thinking in directing your thinking force effectively. Many people make the mistake of placing their desired outcomes always in the future. I will be successful, I will be healthy, I will be happy, never claiming these states as present reality. This constant future orientation sends a signal to the universe that your desired outcomes are always just ahead, never quite here, and the universe, responding to your signal, continues to keep them just ahead, never quite here. You find yourself perpetually approaching your goals, but never quite arriving. The more powerful approach is to claim your desired state as already true in the present moment. I am successful. I am healthy. I am abundant. I am loved. I am creative. I am capable. This is not denial of current circumstances, but recognition that your present thought creates your future reality. And by thinking the thought now, you make it true now in the invisible realm of mind, which eventually manifests in the visible realm of physical experience. When you affirm I am rather than I will be, you align your thinking force with immediate creation rather than perpetual postponement. This requires a mental flexibility that can simultaneously acknowledge current circumstances while claiming a different reality. You can recognize that your bank account is currently low while affirming I am abundant. These are not contradictory statements. The first describes a temporary external condition, while the second describes your true nature and the direction you are moving. The thinking force responds to the second statement, begins creating experiences that match it, and gradually the external condition shifts to align with your internal affirmation. Your thinking force is always active, always creating, never resting, never neutral. Even in sleep, your subconscious mind continues processing the thoughts and beliefs you have been feeding it during waking hours, working to manifest the patterns you have established. This means there is literally never a moment when your thinking is unimportant, never a time when you can afford to be careless about your mental diet. Every thought matters, every mental image carries power, every belief shapes your future. This might sound overwhelming at first. The idea that you must monitor every thought seems impossibly demanding. But remember that you are establishing new habits, creating new automatic patterns that will eventually require no more effort than your current negative patterns require now. In the beginning, yes, it takes conscious effort to redirect your thinking, to catch negative thoughts and replace them with positive ones, to maintain your focus on what you want rather than what you fear. But this effort decreases over time as your new patterns become established, as your thinking force gains momentum in the positive direction, as your default mental setting shifts from negative to positive. Think of it like learning to drive a car. At first, you had to consciously think about every action, pressing the pedals, turning the wheel, checking the mirrors. It all required intense focus and attention. But after weeks and months of practice, these actions became automatic. You no longer had to think about them consciously. Your subconscious mind had learned the patterns and could execute them perfectly, while your conscious mind thought about other things. The same process happens with your thinking patterns. What requires tremendous effort initially eventually becomes effortless, and you find yourself automatically thinking positive thoughts, naturally focusing on solutions rather than problems, instinctively directing your thinking force toward your desired outcomes. The thinking force also has a collective dimension. Your thoughts not only create your individual experience, but also contribute to the collective consciousness, the shared mental atmosphere that influences all of humanity. When many people think thoughts of fear, that collective fear affects everyone, makes the whole world feel more dangerous, more threatening, more unstable. When many people think thoughts of love, peace, and possibility, that collective positivity makes the world feel safer, more hopeful, more full of potential. This means your personal practice of directing your thinking force positively is not only a service to yourself, but a service to everyone. Every time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, every time you hold a vision of peace rather than conflict, every time you affirm abundance rather than lack, you are adding your energy to the collective positive force that makes the entire world better for everyone. You are quite literally helping to create a better world through the simple act of thinking better thoughts. Some people resist this teaching because they fear it means blaming victims for their circumstances, suggesting that people experiencing terrible situations somehow caused them through negative thinking. This is a misunderstanding of the principle. The thinking force operates according to law, but people are also born into systems, inherit circumstances, face genuine external challenges that are not of their making. The teaching is not that you caused everything bad that ever happened to you through negative thinking, but rather that regardless of how you arrived at your current circumstances, you have the power now to change your future circumstances through changing your thinking. Someone born into poverty did not create that poverty through their thoughts as an infant, but they can use their thinking force to create prosperity as an adult. Someone who experienced trauma or abuse did not attract that through negative thinking, but they can use their thinking force to create healing and positive experiences moving forward. Someone facing discrimination or injustice is not responsible for those systems, but they can use their thinking force to maintain their own dignity, peace, and power even within unjust systems, and to work toward changing those systems. The thinking force is not about blame. It is about power, specifically about recognizing the power you do have even when facing circumstances you did not choose. Viktor Frankl demonstrated this principle profoundly in the Nazi concentration camps, where he discovered that even in the most horrific external circumstances imaginable, people retained the freedom to choose their mental attitude, to direct their thinking force toward hope rather than despair, toward meaning rather than meaninglessness, toward love rather than hate. Those who exercised this freedom survived at higher rates and recovered more fully than those who allowed circumstances to dictate their mental state. This is perhaps the ultimate demonstration of the thinking force, that even when everything external is taken away, even when circumstances are absolutely beyond your control, you still possess the power to choose your thoughts, to direct your mental energy, to maintain your inner state regardless of outer conditions. Most of us will never face anything as severe as what Frankl endured, which means we have even more opportunity to exercise our thinking force powerfully. Please like and subscribe to Audiobook Library, as your support helps this channel grow and reach more people who need these transformative teachings. Every subscription makes a difference in spreading this vital knowledge to those who are searching for answers, struggling with challenges, or simply seeking to live more empowered lives. Now let us continue exploring these profound principles that can revolutionize your existence. Larson explains that the thinking force works most powerfully when you release attachment to specific outcomes while maintaining clear intention. This might sound paradoxical. How can you be clear about what you want while simultaneously being unattached to getting it? But this balance is crucial for effective manifestation. When you are desperately attached to an outcome, when you need it to happen in exactly the way you have imagined, when you cannot be happy unless this specific thing occurs, you create energetic constriction, a tightness and tension that actually blocks the flow of your thinking force. The universe often delivers what we need in unexpected ways, through pathways we could not have predicted, in forms we might not immediately recognize as the answer to our desires. When you are rigidly attached to one specific outcome, you might miss these alternative manifestations, might reject opportunities because they do not match your preconceived picture exactly, might block your own good because it arrives wearing different clothes than you expected. But when you hold your vision while remaining open to how it manifests, when you trust that the universe knows the best path and timing, when you can say, "I desire this," or something better, you allow your thinking force to work with maximum effectiveness. This does not mean you should be vague or wishy-washy in your intentions. Clarity is important. Knowing what you want matters. Creating detailed mental pictures amplifies your power. But once you have set your intention, once you have clearly directed your thinking force, you must release the desperate grasping, the anxious need to control exactly how and when your desire manifests. You must develop a kind of relaxed certainty, a calm confidence that what you have set into motion is unfolding perfectly, even if you cannot yet see the evidence. Many people sabotage their manifestations through impatience. They direct their thinking force toward a goal, maintain it for a few days or weeks. Then, when they do not see immediate results, they conclude the principle does not work, abandon the practice, and return to their old negative patterns. This is like planting a seed, watering it for 3 days, then digging it up to see why it has not yet become a tree. The principle works, but it works according to its own timeline, not according to your impatient demands. Some manifestations occur quickly, sometimes astonishingly quickly, especially when you have already cleared many limiting beliefs in that area and your thinking force flows without much internal resistance. Other manifestations take longer because deeper patterns need to shift, because timing needs to align with other factors, because you need to grow and develop certain qualities before you are ready to receive what you have requested. The universe knows what you need to learn and who you need to become to successfully receive and maintain your desired outcome. And sometimes the delay you experience is actually protection, preparation, or perfect timing that you cannot perceive from your limited vantage point. The practice is to maintain your positive mental patterns regardless of how long manifestation takes. You do not affirm health for 2 weeks, then conclude it is not working, and return to identifying with illness. You do not visualize prosperity for a month, then give up and return to poverty consciousness. You make a permanent commitment to directing your thinking force positively, and you maintain that direction whether manifestation comes quickly or slowly, whether evidence appears immediately or takes time to emerge. This sustained commitment produces compound effects. Like interest accumulating in a savings account, your positive thoughts build on each other, gain momentum, create increasing power over time. The person who maintains positive thoughts for 1 year has exponentially more manifestation power than the person who maintains them for 1 week, not because the universe rewards longevity, but because sustained positive thinking has cleared more limiting beliefs, established stronger neural pathways, created deeper conviction, and built tremendous momentum that carries manifestation forward with increasing ease. Larson emphasizes the importance of aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Your thinking force works most powerfully when these 3 elements point in the same direction, reinforcing each other, creating a unified field of creative energy. But many people experience internal conflict, thinking positive thoughts while feeling negative emotions, while taking actions that contradict their stated desires. This internal misalignment creates static, confuses the signal they are sending to the universe, and dilutes their manifestation power. Imagine someone who affirms "I am confident and capable" while feeling deep insecurity, while avoiding opportunities that would require them to demonstrate their capabilities. Their thoughts say one thing, their emotions say another, their actions say yet another, and the universe receives a confused, contradictory message that produces confused, contradictory results. For maximum effectiveness, you need your thoughts, emotions, and actions moving together like oars on a boat, all pulling in the same direction, creating smooth, powerful forward motion. This is why emotional alignment is so important in manifestation work. It is not enough to mechanically repeat affirmations. You must feel the feelings associated with your desired outcome. If you want abundance, you must cultivate the feelings of abundance, security, generosity, and appreciation. If you want love, you must feel loving, lovable, open, and connected. If you want success, you must feel successful, capable, confident, and deserving. These emotions send powerful signals that amplify your thinking force tremendously. But what if you do not naturally feel these emotions? What if your current circumstances make it difficult to feel abundant when you are struggling financially, or loved when you are lonely? This is where the practice becomes creative and intentional. You can generate emotions through memory, recalling times when you did feel the desired emotion, or through imagination, vividly visualizing circumstances that would create the emotion, or through action, doing things that naturally evoke the feeling, even if your circumstances have not yet changed. Someone wanting to feel abundant might practice generosity, giving something even from their limited resources, because the act of giving creates feelings of abundance. Someone wanting to feel loved might practice loving others, offering kindness and compassion, because love given generates feelings of love. Someone wanting to feel successful might celebrate small victories, acknowledging every bit of progress, because celebration creates feelings of success. By taking actions that generate the desired emotions, you align your emotional state with your thinking force, creating powerful synergy. Your thinking force responds to the quality of your overall mental environment, the general atmosphere of your consciousness. If most of your thoughts are negative, critical, fearful, and limiting, but you occasionally throw in a few positive affirmations, those positive affirmations are like drops of fresh water in an ocean of pollution. They make little difference to the overall quality. But when you shift the balance, when you make positive, empowering, expansive thoughts your dominant pattern, occasionally interrupted by negative thoughts rather than the other way around, you change the entire mental environment, and your thinking force flows powerfully toward creating positive experiences. This is why it is so important to guard your inputs, to be selective about what you allow into your consciousness. The news you watch, the conversations you engage in, the social media you consume, the books you read, the music you listen to, all of these feed your mental environment, color your thinking, influence the direction of your thinking force. If you fill your consciousness with negativity, violence, fear, and limitation from external sources, you make it exponentially harder to maintain the positive internal state necessary for effective manifestation. Many people are unconscious about their inputs. They passively consume whatever comes their way, never questioning whether it serves their highest good, never considering whether it supports or sabotages their thinking force. But when you become conscious and deliberate, When you carefully curate what enters your awareness, when you seek out positive, inspiring, empowering content and minimize exposure to negative, degrading, fear-based content, you create a mental environment where your thinking force can flourish. This does not mean you must become ignorant of real problems or avoid all negative information, but it does mean you should be intentional and limited in your exposure. You can stay informed without dwelling on disasters. You can be aware of challenges without marinating in fear. You can understand difficulties without making them the center of your attention. The goal is to maintain a mental environment that is predominantly positive, hopeful, and empowering, occasionally informed about challenges but never dominated by them. The thinking force is particularly responsive to questions. The questions you ask yourself direct your mental focus, point your thinking force in specific directions, determine what possibilities you see and what opportunities you notice. If you constantly ask yourself, "Why am I such a failure? Why do bad things always happen to me? Why can I never get ahead?" your thinking force will diligently search for answers to these questions, finding evidence, creating experiences, and delivering results that confirm your negative assumptions. But when you ask different questions, empowering questions, possibility-generating questions, you direct your thinking force toward different destinations. What is the opportunity here? What can I learn from this? How is this actually working out for my benefit? What amazing possibilities exist for me right now? How can I make this situation even better? These kinds of questions send your thinking force searching for positive answers, noticing favorable evidence, creating empowering interpretations, attracting beneficial opportunities. Questions are extraordinarily powerful tools for redirecting your thinking force because they bypass resistance. When you make a statement, especially one that contradicts your current belief, your mind might reject it, argue with it, marshal evidence against it. But when you ask a question, your mind automatically begins searching for answers without the same level of resistance. You might not initially believe I am wealthy. Your mind will immediately counter with evidence of your current financial situation. But if you ask, how might wealth flow to me, your mind starts generating possibilities, looking for pathways, noticing opportunities it had previously overlooked. Strategic questioning can transform your entire mental atmosphere. Instead of making statements that trigger resistance, you can ask questions that open possibilities. Instead of affirming what you do not yet believe, you can wonder about how it might become true. Instead of arguing with your doubts, you can gently inquire about alternatives. This subtle shift in approach can make the difference between effective transformation and frustrated failure. Larson teaches that the thinking force is magnified through expectation. What you expect tends to happen not because expectation magically creates reality, but because expectation directs your thinking force, focuses your attention, influences your interpretations, and guides your actions in ways that make the expected outcome more likely. When you expect good things to happen, you notice opportunities, interpret events favorably, feel motivated to take constructive action, and generally operate from a mental state that attracts positive experiences. Conversely, when you expect bad things to happen, you notice threats, interpret events negatively, feel discouraged and defensive, and operate from a mental state that tends to create or attract the very difficulties you feared. Your expectations literally program your thinking force to seek out and create experiences that match what you expect, making expectation a self-fulfilling prophecy more often than not. You can deliberately cultivate positive expectations by consciously choosing to expect good outcomes even without evidence that they are coming. This is not blind optimism or naive denial of real challenges, but rather a strategic deployment of your thinking force toward creating the future you desire instead of repeating the past you have already lived. Every morning, you can ask yourself what wonderful things might happen today, priming your thinking force to notice and attract positive experiences. The thinking force also responds powerfully to spoken words. While thoughts are powerful, spoken words carry additional weight because they engage more of your consciousness, involve your physical body, create vibrations in the air around you, and can be heard and responded to by others. When you speak words of limitation, defeat, illness, poverty, and fear, you amplify those thoughts, give them additional power, reinforce them in your consciousness, and often trigger similar patterns in people who hear you. But when you speak words of possibility, strength, health, abundance, and confidence, you amplify those thoughts, energize them with your voice, reinforce them through hearing yourself say them, and often inspire similar patterns in others. This is why changing your speech patterns is such an important part of directing your thinking force effectively. Pay attention to how you speak about yourself, your life, your circumstances, your future, and you will discover whether you are using your words to empower or disempower yourself. Many people habitually speak in diminishing ways. I am so stupid, I always mess things up, I never get lucky breaks, I am terrible at this, nothing ever works out for me, I cannot afford anything, my health is awful. Constantly reinforcing negative patterns through their spoken words. These people who are literally using the power of speech, which should be a tool for creation, as a weapon for destruction, tearing down their own possibilities with every sentence. You can transform your life by transforming your speech. Commit to speaking only words that support your desired reality. Refuse to participate in conversations that focus on problems and complaints. Describe yourself and your life in empowering terms, even before circumstances fully match your description. Speak your affirmations aloud to give them additional power, and use your voice as a tool for deliberately directing your thinking force toward your goals. Near the end of this exploration, as we approach the conclusion of these powerful teachings, remember that knowledge without application remains merely interesting information, but knowledge applied through consistent practice becomes transformative power. You now understand the thinking force, how it works, how to direct it, how to align with it for maximum effectiveness. The question is whether you will actually implement what you have learned or simply find these ideas intellectually fascinating but practically irrelevant to your daily life. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who remain stuck is not knowledge. Both groups often have access to the same information, but application. The transformers commit to daily practice. They catch and redirect their negative thoughts. They maintain their positive focus even when circumstances do not yet reflect it. They persist through doubt and difficulty. They treat their mental discipline as seriously as they would treat training for a marathon or learning a musical instrument. If these teachings have resonated with you, if you can see the truth in these principles, if you recognize the power available to you through your thinking force, then please like and subscribe to Audiobook Library. Your support helps this channel continue bringing these life-changing ideas to people around the world. Check our video library for other transformative content that can support your journey of growth and empowerment. Every video offers wisdom that can shift your perspective and elevate your life. You stand at a threshold. One side holds the life you have been living, created by the thinking patterns you have held up until now, and the other side holds the life you could be living, created by new thinking patterns aligned with your deepest desires and highest potential. The choice is entirely yours. No one can force you to change your thinking. No one can make you apply these principles. No one can do this work for you. But also, no one can stop you from transforming your life if you commit to directing your thinking force with intention, consistency, and faith. Every moment offers a fresh opportunity to think differently, to choose empowering thoughts over limiting ones, to focus on possibilities rather than problems, to affirm your desires rather than your fears. You need not be perfect. You will have moments when old patterns reassert themselves, when negative thoughts slip through your awareness, when circumstances tempt you back into familiar mental ruts. But each time you notice and redirect, each time you choose again, each time you recommit to positive focus, you strengthen your new mental pathways and weaken the old ones. Over time, what now requires conscious effort will become automatic. What now feels unnatural will become natural. What now seems like a practice will become simply who you are. You will wake up one day and realize that positive thinking is now your default, that you naturally expect good things, that you instinctively focus on solutions, that your thinking force flows predominantly in the direction of your desires without you having to constantly monitor and redirect it. This is the goal, not perfect thought control, but a fundamental shift in your mental orientation from negative to positive, from fear to faith, from limitation to possibility. The thinking force within you right now, as you process these words, as you consider these ideas, as you contemplate whether to apply them, That force is already at work, already creating, already shaping your future according to the thoughts you are thinking this very moment. You cannot stop it from working. You can only direct where it works, toward creation or destruction, toward your desires or your fears, toward expansion or contraction. Given that it is working anyway, given that your thoughts are creating results whether you want them to or not, does it not make sense to deliberately guide this force toward outcomes you actually want? This is not additional effort piled on top of an already busy life. This is redirecting energy you are already expending, focusing attention you are already giving, using power you are already wielding. Right now you think thousands of thoughts each day. What these teachings offer is simply a way to make those thoughts work for you instead of against you, to harness the power you are already using, but using unconsciously and often counterproductively. Some people hearing these truths for the first time experience resistance. Their logical mind protests that this sounds too simple, that surely creating the life you want must be harder than merely thinking different thoughts. But simplicity does not mean ease. These principles are simple to understand, but require diligent practice to master. And the simplicity itself is part of the beauty. If creating positive change required complex rituals, expensive equipment, rare knowledge, or special abilities, most people would be excluded from transformation. But because it requires only what you already possess, your mind and your willingness to use it differently, transformation is available to absolutely everyone. You might also notice fear arising as you contemplate actually applying these teachings. Fear of disappointment if you try and fail, fear of looking foolish if you believe these principles and they do not work for you, fear of the unknown territory beyond your familiar struggles, fear of the responsibility that comes with recognizing you have been creating your own experience. These fears are natural, but they need not stop you. You can acknowledge the fear while choosing to proceed anyway. You can feel the doubt while taking action despite it. You can notice the resistance while moving forward regardless. In fact, the presence of fear and resistance often indicates you are approaching something truly significant, something that could genuinely change your life. If these teachings posed no real threat to your current limitations, if they offered no real possibility of transformation, they would not provoke such strong internal reaction. The very fact that you feel resistance suggests some part of you recognizes the power of what is being offered and fears the changes that power could create. But consider what you have to lose by trying. If you apply these principles diligently for 6 months or a year and see no results, you have lost nothing except some time thinking positive thoughts instead of negative ones, which would have been time spent thinking anyway. But consider what you have to gain if these principles work as promised. You could transform every area of your life: health, wealth, relationships, career, happiness, peace, all shifting from struggle to ease, from lack to abundance, from limitation to possibility. The potential upside vastly outweighs the minimal downside, making this perhaps the best investment of effort you could possibly make. The thinking force does not discriminate, does not judge, does not choose favorites. It works equally for everyone who learns to direct it properly, regardless of background, education, current circumstances, or past failures. You need no special talents, no unique gifts, no extraordinary abilities. You need only the willingness to think differently than you have been thinking, to persist through the awkward learning phase, to maintain your practice even when results are not yet visible, to trust the process even when doubt whispers that you are wasting your time. Throughout history, in every culture, in every time period, certain people have understood and applied these principles, often without recognizing them as universal law, simply knowing intuitively that their thoughts mattered and choosing to think in ways that served their highest good. These people became the leaders, innovators, creators, healers, and luminaries who elevated humanity, not because they were born special, but because they used their thinking force more effectively than their peers. You have that same potential lying dormant within you right now. The only question is whether you will activate it, whether you will commit to the practice that develops it, whether you will persist until you see the results. The thinking force is already yours. You need not acquire it or deserve it or earn it. You need only direct it, focus it, align with it, and allow it to do what it naturally does when properly applied. Create experiences that match your dominant thoughts. As you move forward from this moment, as you return to your daily life with these teachings fresh in your awareness, you face a choice at every moment. Will this next thought be one that serves you or limits you, empowers you or diminishes you, moves you toward your desires or away from them? Make that choice consciously, make it consistently, make it with commitment, and your life will transform in ways that will amaze you and inspire others. Please check our video library at Audiobook Library for more transformative content that can support your growth journey. Each video offers wisdom, inspiration, and practical guidance for creating the life you truly want to live. Thank you for investing this time in learning these powerful principles. May you apply them with dedication and experience results beyond your current ability to imagine.